So we have a little time. I'd be happy to answer questions. Yep.
If Obama did sneak in, how would he handle a dominant, controlled Senate and House? Like Clinton when he had it, how would he deal with it?
He'd fight him. There would be total gridlock. Nothing would happen. If Obama did squeak in, what's going to happen if the Republicans take Congress? The answer is nothing for 4 years. Except, you can't imagine the usurpation of executive power that's about to happen, and that's been happening. In that book, Screwed, that some of you on your own have bought, I have a chapter 2 there called Tricks and Treaties. And it's about Obama's strategy that was emerging when I wrote that book in February, to bind us to a series of treaties that would post-date his presidency and would have the force of constitutional law in the United States. Now, after I finished Screwed, a whole lot more came into view. A lot of his secret plans, particularly to force UN regulation of the internet, led by Russia and China, and gun control imposed by the United Nations, and a treaty to make it a crime for an American president to go to war without Security Council approval, to say Russia and China, and to cede to the United Nations control of the seas and give it the power to tax our offshore oil rigs, and get us into the Kyoto Accords by a backdoor way of a treaty that prohibits ocean pollution and would give the Sea Authority the ability to force carbon emission restrictions on the US. So those were all huge. Many of them I alluded to in the book, but they really developed afterwards. So my wife and I have a new book coming out after Dubs gets finished on October 8th. And the title of it, I think you'll appreciate. It's Here Come the Black Helicopters. Black helicopters is the crazy word for the UN invading the United States, but it's really going to happen. There is literally a meeting to be held in Dubai in December of 2012, at which a conference led by Russia, China, Brazil, and India will give the United Nations power over the internet, the ability to sign e-names, the ability to give the countries the IP addresses, meaning the location of every internet user in their country, so they can crack down, the ability to censor their websites, and the ability to charge a special tariff for out-of-nation websites, which is a financial disincentive for people to see them. And that's going to be signed. It's being negotiated in secret right now. The only way we know about it is that on June 12th, the guy who invented the internet, his name isn't Al Gore, it's Vinton Cerf, Verdun Cerf, Cerf, C-E-R-F. He started a website that said, if anybody has any information about the internet regulation negotiations now going on secretly at the United Nations, please post it anonymously on this site. And 2 days later, somebody did. We still don't know who it is. A 212-page memo that described the document that is now under negotiation, which will totally eliminate internet freedom unless we stand up and fight it. So these are all the things that he's going to do to us if he's not reelected, and do even more if he is. Yeah.
Why doesn't the Republican Party make an issue out of our participation in the United Nations and have a cost-benefit analysis?
Yeah, it should. Look, the key thing about the UN is if this were a world of honest democracies, that would be okay. But I mean, who does the delegate from Russia speak for? One guy. Who does the delegate from China speak for? 12 guys on the Politburo. I go through all this in the book, and you'll enjoy it. Yeah.
If you had a choice and you were making the decision, who would be your candidate for vice president?
Well, I gotta give you two answers to that question. The first is who I think would be the most helpful and who I think would be the best vice president. And for me, that's Marco Rubio of Florida.
All right.
And my second choice is Condi Rice. But the guys who vet vice presidential candidates are absolute chickens. scared to death. The example of failed vice presidential candidacies looms very large in their minds. And they do not put a prerequisite on charisma or ability or articulateness. They put a premium on safety, on having someone who is sufficiently dull and sufficiently boring that they can't possibly be an embarrassment. And there are concerns that many people have about Rubio that I investigated and I found not to be true. I did a column, where there's smoke, there's no fire. But they're still worried about it. And Condi is pro-choice. That could provoke a split at the convention. So I think it's probably going to be one of the boring white men. And of the boring white men, my favorite would be McDonald, the governor of Virginia, who really did something incredible. He cut the budget back to pre-2008 spending levels in Virginia without raising taxes. I mean, absolutely incredible record of performance. I love Chris Christie, but he did him one better. So that's probably my answer to your question. Yeah.
On that line today, even last night, where Barack Obama came out with, and what do you think about actually General Petraeus being our vice president?
It'll bring us right back into Iraq. We lost that election already. Yes?
Why are we ignoring the Ohio cold case posse?
The Ohio what?
The Sheriff Ohio cold case posse.
Arizona, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't ignore it. I've sent out about 5 mailings for him on my website. I think he's great, and I think that's worth fighting for. Let me tell you what I think is going to happen on immigration. It's my own personal proposal, and I think it's going to have a good chance of passing. Let's be honest. The Democrats want illegal immigrants to vote but not work because of the unions. And the Republicans want them to work but not vote because of the agribusiness. And they want to work, and they could care less if they vote. Nobody is surviving the border crossings to get the right to vote. They're doing it to get a job and work. So I believe you draw a line between voting and working. And you say on the working side, you've got amnesty. You got legal status, nobody's going to throw you out. You got to pay your taxes, you got to do all that, but it has nothing to do with citizenship or voting. That's a whole other process where you go to the end of the line and you come here legally and you wait your turn. That would pass, but the Democrats won't let it because their whole point is to get them to vote. Okay, one more.
You talked about immigration, but you didn't talk about the eligibility issue.
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
The presidential eligibility.
Oh, you mean residents?
The case posse uncovered in terms of the birth certificate, for example.
Yeah. Well, let the court rule on that. I'm not going to spend my life fighting that issue. I want to beat him.
You want to abandon?
You want me to talk, or does he want to talk?
Your turn.
You guys, my turn. One question I have regarding this thing. If we defeat Obamacare, we rule it out, what is the Republican Party going to do? I have one thought, and I wonder how it would go with the audience here. Every individual is given his own medical record in a chip, and he owns it himself. It isn't owned by the hospital. It isn't owned by the doctor. You can only authorize it released to them as an individual.
Right.
No longer controlled by anyone.
Well, that's what HIPAA was supposed to do. The health privacy medical records that Hillary got through in 1993. It has been totally violated by Obamacare, essentially repealed, and doctors are virtually required to give them your medical records, and they have them all. And that will be the basis for them deciding whether or not you can have a hip transplant. How old are you? How many quality life remaining years do you have? What's your blood pressure? What have you ever been diagnosed with? Did you used to smoke? What's your weight? What's your pulse? They have all that, and they're going to ration health care based on that. Now, I believe that we will repeal Obamacare, and I think the Republicans will replace it. Obviously, tort reform and interstate competition and all that stuff. But the real way to deal with this is the way Governor Daniels is doing it in Indiana for state workers. He has a program where he tells state workers, you can stay in your current health insurance system or go to my new system, it's up to you. And 3/4 chose the new system. And the new system was, at the beginning of the year, I'm going to give you each $3,000. And you can only spend it on medical care, but you can spend it any way you want on medical care. Premiums, deductibles, co-payments, doctor's visit fees, and so on. And anything you have left at the end of the year, you keep and I won't tax. And what it does is it means that we are now consumers who worry about money. The health insurance companies don't worry about health, and we don't worry about cost. We make a great team. This will mean the people that are worried about health and cost will be the same person, you, just like you are when you buy a car. And if you get catastrophic illness, the $4,000, you pay all of it. The 5,000th, you split 50-50. The 6,000th, the state will pay 3/4. And after 7, the state will pay everything. And 80% of the state workers got money back at the end of the year. And it permitted Daniels to cut the spending on that program by 20%. That's the ultimate solution that I think the Republicans will come to. Well, thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Tim for that tremendous speech, and I have a bedroom in Litchfield. If I have this guy in my bedroom and bring him to all my events, we absolutely win. Folks, on Tuesday, vote for me and I will work for you. So please get to the polls. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Cards that didn't get your book signed, please, you can go across the hall. We're going to get the book signed for the remainder of you that didn't get it earlier today, that have the number from signing it early. So just across the hall. Thank you.